Back in the days before Ron Paul got popular, I used to be more of an authoritarian than him. I thought he was all soft on the foreign threats. Well, now the tables have turned. I had an epiphany when I realized two things. We don't need government in order to slaughter foreign terrorists. We can do it with our own money. And it's not right to use the government as a protection against foreign threats. Well, maybe I should rephrase that. It's not right to use taxes as our salvation against foreign threats.
Ron Paul, a veteran with a plan to keep America secure.
Anyway, what sort of creeps me out about this ad is this part.
Protect America by securing our borders and rebuilding our defenses.
Are you really sure that's what you want? Do you want U.S. troops in uniform crawling around the border or anywhere near it? If they're doing this kind of stuff in Iraq, do you really want them doing it next door to you? I do care about the American troops who are over there or over here or anywhere, but I don't want them deployed in the United States in uniform. I want them decommissioned, returned to the productive private sector. If I want one of them standing watch over me, I will hire him to do it. This isn't a new concern. I think I did a video 3 years ago worrying about what will happen when all these troops come flooding back into the United States. There are going to be issues with traumatized troopers misbehaving, but that's something we can get through. What we can't get through is a bunch of troopers coming back in uniform being deployed against basically the American people. Because again, that's what the Border Patrol, when it's put on the border, it abuses the Americans.
What are you placing me under arrest for?
Prefer to obey me right now.
The U.S. Army, when it's running around in Iraq, it abuses Iraqis. I think it's pretty safe to assume if we had the U.S. Army running around on the American borders, they would be hurting Americans. That's what they do. They hurt people. At least disband them or put them into a training role. I mean, troops love to train. Now, that's a great use for American troops is training. And you could put them, all over the country doing training in the existing bases within the borders of the bases. If you really just want to have some busy work for them to do, I guess it would have the, side effect of, protecting the country from foreign armies for a while as things get crazy in the world. I'm not even, I think the best protection against foreign armies is bazooka freedom. I think, firearms and weaponry, heavy weaponry, evenly distributed around the population, that's the solution. Actually, believe it or not, this has happened once before, the whole bazooka freedom thing. Not recently in the United States, but in Albania. At the end of the Cold War, all the weapons basically fell into the hands of the people. And you had 6-year-olds carrying around Kalashnikovs, which I think was not particularly safe. But even in that dire situation where people were very poor, there was absolutely no control over the weapons. You never really heard much in the way of headlines from Albania after that. The place did not descend into crazy violence. Again, despite the fact that people in Albania traditionally build their villages on top of hills rather than in the valleys, that's how scared they are of their neighbors. The country actually did well enough to stay completely off the headlines for 2 decades after that. With one exception, they were threatened by Serbia somewhat, and that threat nothing really ever came of it. The Serbians never marched across the border into Albania. I wonder if bazooka freedom had anything to do with it. Anyway, back to the subject. If Ron Paul's not going to do that, and he has to spend money on these military guys for some reason, then training seems like the least bad way to do it. Don't deploy them. Do not deploy them. Unless there is an organized army forming on an American border. That hasn't been working. All right, anyway, that's my take on the Ron Paul ad. If it gets him extra votes, okay, great, but I'm not in agreement with the message. Driving in circles around Central Keene, I hurl both insults, angry and mean.
against the activists from Free Cain, who wander around thinking as though they were free, and even though they aren't hurting me, I will hate them hatefully, urging their appearance in the penitentiary, although that expense would be charged to me. I'm starting to feel somewhat confusedly.